Let's see some more butts in Halo.
Oh my gosh, there were double the amount. I thought we were on episode 5.
I know. I kind of got disappointed when I realized it was 4.
I was like, only 4?
I was like, how many more weeks of this do we have?
Well, Joseph, here we are again.
I know. Episode 4.
Halo, the TV series, episode 4.
This was a 54-minute episode, so they could have literally cut about 35 minutes of it.
Yeah.
And just kept about 15 to 20 minutes, you know?
Unbelievable, man. I mean, so we get this this scene straight in the beginning. I'm trying to pull it up. Do I have the right episode?
Of his childhood.
Of his childhood. So we get this okay, so just so people get some context, and as usual, one of the reasons I like that we do this together is that if I forget anything or I missed something, you're always there to be like, well, actually, there's this, right? But here's the thing. They do this flashback at the beginning of all of our main characters like running in this unbelievable fog. Like, look at this. What's going on here?
I know.
Like,
why does the fog matter?
Yeah.
What does that accomplish?
And they basically, it's to attempt to give us a small morsel of like, maybe Master Chief isn't as loyal as everyone thought, because like he ran away on 2 occasions as a 10-year-old who was taken away from his family. Like oh man, this show
so coherent with their storylines and plots. Gotta love it.
Oh, and then Master Chief. Okay, so we have this part that comes up right after this where he's like, the colors are like he's like, oh, it looks different, and then Cortana says this thing to him or whatever. And again, this is one of those moments that I think with better writing and if the acting had been sharper, that moment would work, right? Where he's like learning something, or he's like, man, I'm seeing something different, and Cortana is just being completely to the point with everything. Like she's just very factual, and he's like, you know, he says something. Yeah, you're ruining it, right? The problem is that ever since Master Chief got that thing out of his back, they're not acting like, or it's like no one informed the actor that he needed to start having more emotion.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's interesting because the other Spartan, what is it?
Kat.
They show, is it Kat? Is that her name, or Kai?
Kai, maybe, I don't know. So in Reach, there's one of the Spartans is named Kat, and I constantly get.
Okay.
I mean, and here's the thing, man. I don't know because they haven't set this up for me to care.
Exactly, man. And it's funny because she immediately, you know, well, we'll get to it, but she develops more emotion than he does.
I mean, you know, we can jump
okay,
right to it.
You just passed it.
Yeah, we can jump right to it. So I thought she was going to be the villain this season. And now that's not to say that there's not a chance that she might have some sort of switch at some point.
Right.
I think that they have other plans for her that I'll get to when we get to later in the episode. I'm sure you picked up on some of the vibe going on in this episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, she sees Master Chief in the previous episode pull his little like pill capsule or whatever out of his
top
back.
of his butt crack.
Yeah. And so she decides to do the same thing. And that's our first butt crack of the episode.
Yep. The first full, you know, not a complete full moon. It was a crescent.
No, yeah, we got just a bit of a crescent of the time.
Oh man.
By the way, and I maybe I'm wrong, but possibly the best actor in the show.
Her?
Yeah,
I agree. But she showed more emotion than old Pablo did with Master Chief.
She's been emoting more than I think anyone else in this show has. Well, except for maybe Quan Ha, but
yeah.
I guess I should clarify. I mean, in a possibly a good direction, not in a like kind of cringe, which we get a lot of that in this episode too.
A lot of the characters are insufferable. I just, you know,
it's getting worse. Yeah.
No feeling towards them. I don't mind Soren, but even, you know, his whole.
I don't care about anything.
The writing.
Yeah.
I think it's more the writing than it is the actor. You know, just the route they're taking with it. I love though.
Oh look, here's another butt.
Yeah, another butt, and he barely, you know, is in the Master Chief suit. with his helmet on.
With his helmet specifically in this one. Again, and then when he does have the helmet on, they're constantly, and we'll get to them, I think, but he constantly has these like close-ups of his face inside the helmet. That's another thing I noticed in this. There are a lot of close-up shots of characters in like their faces, like these awkward angles or the sides of their face or whatever the case may be. And I just wonder, like, what were they thinking with that? Yeah,
I love how Kai's, when she gets the thing out of her back, and one of her first instincts once she starts getting her feelings is she looks at the the oil or the paste she's using to clean her weapon with, and it's red, and so she dyes her hair. That's like the first thing she does. She's like, instead of just like, this is interesting, I'm feeling this now. Her next instinct is to go, let me put this on my hair.
Here we go. Yeah. Here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's like cleaning her gun, and she finds this like, I guess it's supposed to be oil, but it looks like wax. So I don't know what they don't know what they're doing when it comes to firearms cleaning in this guns. Anyway. Yep. So this is definitely, I think even in the future, this is not exactly how you're supposed to do this. In fact, in their time period, I'm surprised them being like a militaristic society that they haven't invented something where you basically rack your gun in and it cleans it completely for you, right? Like this is the future. They literally have super soldiers, right?
They're still using like and mopeds and motorcycles.
Here's the thing, man. Is like I'm sure that they thought this was going to be such an empowering moment, and it makes you wonder because there's a part later on where she's talking to Miranda Keyes.
Yeah,
and she's like, "This stuff looks stupid in my hair, doesn't it?" And she's like, "Yeah, kinda."
Yep.
So now, and this is the question we were wondering: is like, where did the pink hair come from? So I imagine it'll get lighter, or Miranda.
Gun oil.
Yeah, it's gun oil. Oh, it's red like blood because she's a warrior. It's like
it's your act of rebellion against Halsey.
Yeah, it's so awkward, dude. It totally just messes, and it sucks because now that she's actually talking and has a bit more character to her, or like she's emoting, and you're seeing that it's like, oh, this actress, like she's fine, like she can act. We'll get to it. It's a little later in the episode, but she has her conversation with the other Spartans. I think is the best bit of dialogue I've seen in the entire show. Oh, and I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I know,
but it was the only time that I kind of was. I actually like perked up for a second. It was like, wait, that kind of worked. Like, where's more of this? Like,
exactly.
Where is this stuff?
I think the problem I have with each episode, I say this, just too many characters, introducing too many, not enough development, not enough payoff, backstory, all of that. It's just all jumbled everywhere. You know what I mean? Trying to do too much in one series, whereas, again, we go back to using a TV show like Game of Thrones. What made the first season worked so well is because they took time with each character they introduced to develop them, to get you to know them. They didn't just introduce you to 100 at one point.
Yeah, and no one has a lot going for them in this show. Like Quan Ha's been in every single episode. I still don't understand her motivation for anything.
Or her purpose.
Yeah, they're revealing this stuff now, and we'll get to it, like about her father. But it was like, what are we even talking about? And so
why wasn't that in the first episode?
Yeah, like why haven't we spent more time with Master Chief, with Quan Ha, with the other Spartans, right? There's like they could have cut half the cast out, right? In fact, and this is the thing, is like as far as the Quan Ha stuff is concerned, they could have gotten rid of that completely. She was in an episode and a half with Chief, and now she's off doing her own thing, and I'm like, this isn't even the same show. It's beyond like a B plot.
Yep.
Right? Like she's so outside of everything that's actually going on of importance in the show right now. Though I imagine just because they're doing this whole thing where they're putting the carrot out in front of you where you're like, her dad knew something and this is she has a reason for being here, don't worry. And I'm like, oh my god.
Oh, we don't care.
Like we're 4 episodes into this. Like what? You should have been doing this.
Why are you doing this now?
Yeah.
This is what I mean. I think we had mentioned this in one of our past episodes, right? Setting things up in the first episode to then pay off later, right? Yeah. Like in the first episode of Game of Thrones, we get the Night Walkers. I think that's the very first scene in the first episode, right? Man,
yeah, you get like a hint of them, just a small hint.
Yep, but it's a plot point that carries over through 8 seasons.
Yep.
Right? And so again, it's, I don't know, man. I just don't think they know what they're doing.
No, I'm going to bring up another show later that I think, as far as the way they should have handled a lot of this, that I would have made this a significantly better show, but we'll get to it. So we're going to kind of rush through a lot of this because, like we predicted, there's a lot of standing around and talking. I mean, there's hardly action in this episode. This is a Halo TV show.
I know.
And there is hardly any fighting, Master Chief shooting aliens, Marines like going down in a blaze of glory. Like,
they
what
really
is
know their
this?
fan base, don't they?
Dude, the Silva timeline. Come on, people.
Oh, man.
So Master
Nobody
Chief,
wants to see fighting and guns. Guns are bad.
Master Chief spends this entire episode moping around on his home planet, reminiscing about like his childhood, right?
Right.
This is it. Look at this. They're spending all this time. Here's creepy dude. All that whole scene is him just like wandering around because they're literally going on a treasure hunt. They're trying to dig up
having flashbacks.
Yeah.
When you could have easily taken an episode, utilized half of it or the entire episode to do this.
Yeah.
To do a backstory for Master Chief.
Yeah.
To explain all of this.
Focus on some characters for once. I mean, we're in the middle of the season at this point. Quan Ha goes back
to Magical.
with Soren. Yeah, with Magical. She goes back with Soren to Magical.
Yep. And to go see her family and generals for La Revolution.
Like reasons. And here's the thing: is I understand that she cares about her planet, but this is as a viewer, you're going, why is any of this? Why are we doing this? Why is any of this important?
Yep. Why do we care?
For this complete, like, we are spending way too much time with this made-up character. All these made-up characters, right? So here's, evil British man. He'll come back later in full glory, which I got to talk about that scene because there was one part in it that made me die laughing. So more walking and talking. They're going through this whole thing. She runs into a guy that she knows. Oops, I'm getting ahead of myself. She runs into a guy that she knows and like loses it. And this is the first moment that I really started getting frustrated with her. So she meets this guy that she used to know. She's trying to find information. He doesn't want to give her information, right? And so she starts freaking out in this place where we've known for 3 episodes now that people are hunting her down, that she's got bounties on her head, right? And she just decides she's going to freak out in the middle of all these people.
Take her hood off and cause
start
a scene.
Screaming and running around, and it's just like, oh.
And then, just to make sure that you really don't forget that she has a bounty on her head, even though they've told us 100 times, they have to show it again just to make sure you're not stupid.
And then this kid right here, he tells her, he's like, they're having a funeral for your father tonight, or like a vigil for your father tonight. Come to that, and you might find what you're looking for. Doesn't give her any other information. Doesn't tell her where it's going to be located.
That's not suspicious.
Yeah, I mean, just the most. He just goes, there's this thing tonight. She just accepts it, and then he leaves, and you're like, but where's she supposed to go? Like, you could have at least been like in the town square, right? Like, put a little effort into where, like.
Could have given her a Google Maps.
This is like the Witcher Brown Castle thing in verbal form, where it's like, oh, we're headed here, and it's like, huh? And they show you this brown castle, and you're like, oh, okay. So we'll get back to that in a minute, and of course we have the whole thing with
gun oil,
yes,
and red hair, pink hair. So because she's rebelling against Halsey, and
then Miranda Keyes is getting her look at, or she's doing this thing. This comes to nothing, by the way.
Nothing. No point. Everybody, all the Spartans touch it, and nothing happens.
This could have been 10 minutes shorter. I understand the setup that she's interested in this thing, right? But they could have gotten through this really quick and gotten to the main point of which we got to talk. Oh my gosh, we got to talk about how stupid the UNSC is. These are the dumbest people I think I mean, just this is all based on what they're telling us in the show, how dumb these people are. So they go through this whole experimentation thing. Just literally stop me if there's something you wanna mention.
Nah, you're good. Keep going.
She gets each one of them to do this, and then gets to. Man, this is the thing. Is like I cannot remember the name of this.
They go back and forth between all the different plots they're trying to do for this one episode.
Exactly, and so she tells them to take their helmets off because they're about to do experimenting. Master Chief continues his quest for this thing. This is all that really happens. I mean, they find some pictures. They're just retelling us stuff that we already know.
Yep. And then they cut back to magical. And I'm like, guys,
please just quit it.
Stay in one place for 10 minutes.
So here's this vigil. This goes on forever. She finds the person who's supposed to be the governor. Somehow Quan Ha figures out, because she's the only one left alive. Like, this is the thing about dumb characters, man, is like this lady, right? If it's true that she's working with the evil British man, why on earth would she give all this information to Quan Ha?
Yeah, right.
About what was going on. Why wouldn't she be like, oh, we got caught off guard after your father died. It was a massacre. We don't know what happened. We're just trying to survive at this point. I'm so sorry. But based on the way she like explains everything, Quan Ha's like, wait, how are you still alive? You were like the number one. How, and so that's all that comes of this. And then they have this whole like thing.
Never go back to it.
No.
Because I thought they were going to be like, oh, she must be a spy with, allied or something with old villain for magical.
Oh, look at that face. See, and this is the thing.
Forces arrive.
Yeah. So hang on.
Eat people, and somehow they escape.
She emotes like crazy in this show, but it's not good. It's not it doesn't work at all, because she comes off as just annoying,
unintelligent,
and bratty, and she's not aware of, like, there's no personal risk to her.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they keep telling us that there is.
It's like, the plot's going to keep me safe, guys. Don't worry.
Pretty much, yeah. Right. So, yeah, they get attacked by security forces. I guess people get beat up. So now we're back with Keys. They go through their whole thing. She gets asked about her hair. And 125 starts getting snarky with her.
Mm-hmm.
Which, this is the thing, is like, I appreciated this depiction of what was happening after someone had their little capsule removed than what they did with Chief in the previous episode. It works a little better, I think, just because it's a little more subtle, and it's not like he's on this elevator and he's like, whoa, and then music, and then he's like creeping on. Remember, he was creeping on that couple, the interracial couple in the corner, and then he sees like the lady's dog, and he's just like staring at the dog.
Oh man.
So yeah, they go through their whole thing. Chief is still, Chief's plot in this, that they didn't need to do this. They could have spent all of this information they're giving goes nowhere for the most part. Like, we get to see more of his childhood, but we're not getting any information about the character. Like, it doesn't do anything to add to the plot, really, right? Because
they're not showing us anything nor telling us anything.
Yeah, it's just him walking around in the house. And
it just is it's being drawn out too much. Like, I think they're trying to get to a point about Halsey and how obviously she's not the mother we figure, and there's reason for him to not trust her and everything, but it's just. But
again, they do that in the last like 5 minutes of the episode. There's this whole exposition dump with Miranda where she basically, you get a little bit of it in this, and this is the thing that I wanted to bring up to you about this episode, because this is something that's going on in news right now. Halsey's a groomer.
Yep.
We were like halfway through this, and I was like, oh,
that's a good point, man. I wasn't even thinking about that. That's a good point.
She legitimately,
she's a groomer.
Yeah, she takes these.
How fitting for CBS.
Yeah, and this is the way that they did it, right? Because you could have done it. Yeah, you could have done this in a way where it wasn't as creepy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where, because I think in
David, I guess art really does imitate life.
Oh, it definitely does, man. So I think in like actual Halo canon, what they would do is they would find candidates, and they might get into that in this, but they would find candidates for the Spartan program. They would abduct them, and they would put a clone in their place that would die a few years later. So this idea of it kind of being like none the wiser of the people who had their children abducted. They just think that their kid came down with some sort of illness and died. In this, what it looks like is that she spends quite a bit of time manipulating John as a kid, right? Like, they have they go out of their way to show this whole thing where she's like sitting there and flipping the coin and being like, this is our little secret. And you're just like, oh no. It's like, boys.
Groomer 101. That's one of the first steps, right?
Right. So then
I go back to a point that you've made is like, and every time we've done these episodes is this could have been handled better, right? And that's how I feel with this. What was I going to say? With this particular plot point, that they could have handled it a lot better into showing Halsey like, hey, kind of like that moral ambiguity, that gray area, to where it's like, hey, this is wrong, but she's ultimately doing it for good, because if we don't have Spartans, then the Covenant will come and kill everybody. You know what I mean? Just kind of handling it in a more sophisticated, mature, nuanced way, to where you could even ultimately decide, hey, she's wrong for doing this. They should still be open and honest. But at least it presents, you could see where she's coming from. But again, it's
not good.
Nothing's good about it.
They go on and on and on, right? And then this is kind of the ending where what I was talking about, where she's like, oh, I'd like to come and see you again, but this has to be our secret. You can't let anybody know that I'm coming to hang out with you, little boy. And you're like, but you're right. This is exactly what they should not be doing. And they could have handled this in a better way and given her, like, and this is the idea, right? You could build a character like Halsey up early on in a show. Mm-hmm. And, okay, she's got her morality. And we could see it instead of Keys telling us at the end of the episode what's really going on with her. Over time, you could see through her character and the choices she makes and the things that she says and the way she interacts with people what she really believes.
Right.
That's good writing, generally. You still have to do certain things correct in that, but if you can hit some key points, you're pretty golden, right? Especially for television.
Right.
And she doesn't really have any of that. We don't
know what she believes.
Yeah, we don't really know, except when other people are telling us who she is. Mm-hmm. Right? Until kind of this moment right here, where you're just like, oh no. Like, and that's the thing, is it messes with you now, because you're like, I didn't really care for you before, but I definitely don't like you now. Mm-hmm. So even if you get some sort of redemption, it's going to fall flat because you were a creep to begin with.
Yep.
That's basically what you are.
You did something terrible.
Yeah, we don't have any reason to think that there's a reason for you to struggle with the things that you did, and just thinking for yourself like, oh, we have this horrible problem going on with the Covenant, so we have to have people like Master Chief. And this is the only way that we can do it, because they have to be trained from childhood. There's at least, even if people still would consider that to be wrong, there's at least a part of you that's like, I understand her motives. I understand where she's coming from, even if I disagree with what she's doing to get that done, right?
Right.
There is something to be said there. This is not it. This just, It doesn't work. All right. So we'll move on from all this. Through that whole thing, too, you're starting to see that Halsey is like, there's something going on with her. She's like not trusting Chief, or, she's starting to feel really uncomfortable with the way that he isn't listening to her anymore.
Where she's not having control over him.
Right. And at least they kind of get that right. There's that sense of she feels uncomfortable, and you can assume based on that she doesn't, and her going like, Chief, like, we should go back to the ship. And he's basically just completely ignoring her at this point.
The season finale is him doing this. He has on his mask, right? His helmet. And he goes, she's a groomer.
Get her, boys.
Oh, man, let me put this back on.
So, the best part of the episode, in my opinion, is coming up right here. So,
I thought it was like a little Easter egg thing to get people excited. Hey, it's the Needler.
Yeah, but it actually has like a decent little payoff, I think. It's still jokey for the most part, but they go through this whole thing, and I'm gonna attempt to play this. Hopefully, YouTube doesn't cut it, but she goes through this explanation of the Needler, and I'm gonna try to keep this in and see if we don't get or we don't get it like cut or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if it does, it'll get cut out, and y'all have to go just look it up for yourself, or I might throw it up on like one of our social media things, because we'll be able to get away with it on there. I just really liked this moment, so I wanted to give them at least a little bit of credit. Whoever wrote this little bit of dialogue, I just appreciated what they did with it. So it's just an explanation of the Needler.
Oh, the Covenant have another word for it. What is it again? Repos. Oh, yeah, that's it. Repos. Repos.
Correct.
How do you know that?
Well, that's what they say when we turn it on them. But I guess it could just mean shit. Please don't kill me.
Also correct.
And I like that you're getting that mixture of she's got this personality now, and then he's not there, but like she still kind of knows exactly what's going on because of all of her like I guess you call it like all of her experience in the field, and he's like yep. And it's not, I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but at the same time I was happy. Yeah, I was happy to see something from
and you know, again, we come back to this, and it's like you could have easily have cut out a majority, you know, Quan Ha, all these different characters, and have focused on those 3 Spartans, because actually that bit of dialogue made me like, oh, I like those 3 Spartans.
There's something there.
There's something there. I wish I knew more about them. And Miranda Keyes, you know, enjoying her character so far. At least her interaction with them, I should say.
Yeah.
Not necessarily her character. I don't really care for her character. No offense to the actress.
Yeah. It's not really her fault.
Crap.
And here's the other thing I wanted to make sure that I mentioned about this scene. Well, it kind of comes up, but she after this scene where the Spartans are explaining to her this word that they know that they think means needler or whatever the case may be, Miranda realizes that the Spartans, especially after, and again, she was told earlier in the episode that one of the Spartans has like, I think it's the other female, has the ability to translate into every known dialect.
Yep.
And she said like something about the world, like the different worlds, I guess colonized worlds. And they were kind of specific about that. But it should have made Miranda go, well, okay, if she is smart enough to know all these dialects, maybe she's picked up some of the stuff from the Covenant, right? And so she should have immediately gone to her and talked to her about that. Now, here's the other thing that makes no sense. The UNSC, this immense organization who has trained these Spartans.
That's the first thing I thought of when they showed this. I know where you're going. Finish your point.
They don't have any knowledge that the Spartans can understand certain things from the Covenant. Like, this isn't part of their debriefing. And this isn't
none
known.
of these admirals and generals and presidents and, you know, chain of command, no one talked to the Spartans about how the Covenant act.
Yeah.
And what they say and stuff like that.
Exactly.
No one did.
And
but
her
Miranda
excuse
Keyes sure did find it.
Well, that's the thing is Miranda's excuse is, well, I've never actually talked to you guys before. What? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, man.
That was so dumb. And again, I think too, we still don't have this, you know, you get in the first episode and a little bit throughout the second and third, but this presence that, oh, hey, the Covenant are really bad and terrible. We're 4 episodes in and there's not a ton of fighting between them.
Dude, they're not even in this episode.
Except for being dead.
Except they're the dead elite.
Like I don't understand, man. It seems like this would be so easy of a show to knock out. You know what I mean? Yeah, and by knock out, I don't necessarily mean the most popular show ever. I just mean to do well.
You didn't have to do much.
Yep.
Boba Fett lowered the bar so far, and this managed to beat it.
Yep.
It's I'm speechless.
We do get another butt scene.
Yes. So evil.
I mean, I'm sorry, YouTube. Full moon.
Yes.
Twice. We get to see it twice from him.
Evil British man is hanging out in a giant sauna hot tub thing, just random pool of water.
He
smoking a cigar.
Sexually harasses his assassin by exposing himself to her.
So they have this like whole conversation, right? And this is one of the other things I wanted to point out in this episode. I'm trying to make sure I can actually get to it. And he's having this conversation, right? Wait, dang it. Is it? Oh, they're going back and forth. So they're going back and forth, showing them. He's talking to her, like whatever. So, right? So he puts a cigar out in the water, which I already thought was a little weird, right? And you're like, oh.
Somebody was like, I bet I know. This would be cool.
Yeah. They definitely thought that was a cool thing, right? But then it goes back to him in a second. They go through this whole fight
Soren
thing.
beats up, her aunt's bodyguards.
Yeah, it's dumb. I think he even kills one of them. Where is it? Oh, you can't see it. Hang on, I got to move my camera out of the way for a second for you to be able to see this. But I think you can see it. His cigar is floating in the water over here. He just puts it out in his bath or whatever, right? And then leaves the rest of the cigar sitting in there. Like, first of all, complete waste of a cigar, if I can say so myself.
No man wastes a cigar.
No, not like that. I saw that and it started cracking up, man. Like, I was like, what are they doing? Like, did they mean to leave that shot in? Like, I don't know what they were thinking. Anyway, so yeah, he's basically hiring her to kill Quan Ha.
And she says, okay, I'll do it. Cover yourself first.
Oh, right. Yeah. Again, very suspicious number of females in this show.
Yes.
Everyone in sort of like other than Master Chief, nearly every other person in a commanding front and center role in the show.
Authority type of role.
It's very, very suspicious.
Very strange.
That's all I'm going to say about it. It's just suspicious. So yeah, they go through their whole thing. They don't let him in. He leaves. They have... Oh, this is the scene that I was talking about before where they're doing the dialect thing and she's like, oh, we never thought to do this before.
Yep.
It's like, idiots. It's like, come on now.
And that's how they... with this, is this the halo? Is that what they're referring to? Is the sacred
they're like
object?
They do like a circle. They're like Halo.
The ring.
And the music starts playing.
So bad.
You remember the music, don't you?
Oh man.
Come on, man.
Definitely makes me want to buy get some memorabilia, like a Master Chief helmet just to have in the background. That's eventually what I'm gonna have behind me is a bunch of just Lord of the Rings, Halo.
You should dye your hair pink. Get some pink streaks in your hair.
I'm gonna go buy some done wax. There's no way
you go into a store
man.
And be like, so does this exist? Do you have this? Can you explain this?
And not to mention, don't you think like dyeing technology for your hair would have increased tremendously by this point in time? Like
maybe, but here's the thing: is that they're a military society, and you would also, and this is why some of it still doesn't make sense because they're a military society, and they're like, well, she's going to show rebellion by putting pink streaks in her hair. It's like, but wouldn't she be smart enough to know that this couldn't go well for her? Like that it's more trouble than
attention.
Yeah, that this is more trouble than it's worth. And I don't want to go too deep into the equilibrium comparison again, but there are similarities as far as the waking up and your emotions kind of coming back to you and feeling these things. And
knowing you have to keep it to yourself because she's also watched Halsey with Master Chief.
Exactly.
Right.
So yeah, and she gets like warned at the end and it's like, hey, maybe you should get that pink crap out of your hair. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That should be what that conversation led to, and it just doesn't because again, these are completely one-dimensional characters. They don't feel real. There's nothing about them that makes me think that I would encounter someone like this.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
I mean?
It doesn't make nothing makes any rational and emotional sense. You know what I mean?
Yep. And here we got Sad Boy Chief again.
Yep, moping around.
Just moping all the time.
I called it.
Yeah, every episode, man.
Too bad they didn't go back to what killed, the colony there.
Right. Yeah. We don't get anything else. There's like bullet holes in the
window. When he went into the cave, I'm like, oh, I done that. Right. That's a good point. When he went into the cave, I'm like, with his dog or whatnot, I'm like, oh, he's going to eat a bat or get bit by a bat, and he's going to bring back a virus that kills his family or something.
Yeah, they're probably coming. And yeah, you're right. I guarantee you, virus, military killed everyone on the planet, and that's going to send Chief and the rest of the Spartans into a conflict.
Yep. And he's the best.
He's the best. So yeah, I mean, this is there's not a whole lot left to say here.
Just a bunch of filler.
Yeah, he's
steals a bike from
Soren
a guy.
Being the bad guy. The assassin comes up and kills everyone. It's like the only action scene we actually get in the episode.
Could have easily killed Quan Ha.
Yeah, I guess I kind of appreciate it. The only like tidbit that we get anymore from these shows, it's like the hallway scene has become like a trope in everything. It's like Star Wars. What was the other one that happened recently with the hallway scene? Maybe they were just joking about it, but man, everything has to have like a hallway scene now. So this is the one so far for Halo, with the assassin coming down to kill everyone. I love that Soren comes in here and shoots this lady. Now, again, we're talking about a guy who was a trained Spartan who has all of these enhancements. Dude only manages to shoot this assassin in the shoulder.
How extremely lucky for her.
Yeah, exactly. I guess she'll be coming back later on, right?
Yep.
So yeah, they do this whole thing, and then we are finally headed to wherever this other MacGuffin
Master
is.
Chief finally realized where the second object was.
Yep. We get this whole exposition dump with Keys about
Dr. Halsey.
Halsey. Sorry, so many people's names, man.
I know, to remember.
And she's like, oh, she's not a good person. She sees things like in this very specific way, blah, 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 which, again, done better. Those qualities they make for an interesting character. Yeah. But that's not how they're choosing to do this. They're just
and Dr. Halsey is her mom, right? Miranda Keyes'
No.
Okay.
I am unsure if Miranda's mother is dead or off somewhere. I'd have to go back and check, because the only other time I think they mention her really is in the first episode.
Yeah.
And she has some sort of rank, I think, and they talked about how even her father is under her command.
Yep.
If I remember
and her father
correctly.
was a captain.
Yeah.
Right.
So her mother is still alive, and I think, and if she is, that'll play a role. Theoretically, that would probably play a role either later in the season to set something up for next season, because I think we're getting a second season, despite how this has completely bombed as far as I can tell. Like, people aren't interested. I imagine that their watch drop off plummeted after the first episode.
Easily.
They probably had decent numbers for the first episode, and everyone was like,
it definitely
nah.
plummeted after the second.
After the second one, yeah, you're absolutely right. Soren gets this ridiculous helmet.
Yeah.
This thing, right? I mean, come on, costume design. What were you thinking with this? This is the like. Does he get seizures? Is he worried about that? Like, what is?
Escapes. Oh, did you see like the security forces had clear open shots on them and all the bullets missed?
Oh yeah, right. That's such a good point. So when they're escaping, right, in this scene right here, when he first has this, look at this helmet. This helmet is terrible. Oh my gosh, the costume design in this is
clear shots
so
from the security forces.
They shoot from behind, because I got confused at first, right? So they come over to the vehicle.
Yeah.
And then they get shot at. And all these guys are standing right behind them. Right here. Clear. You're right. Clear shot. It should have been over. They were using like automatic weapons too, I'm pretty sure. And he has this little pistol. Yeah. Dude. Damn. Anyway, so
another bad episode.
Yeah, that's really it. I mean, yeah, they go through the whole thing with like Miranda. They're like, Miranda's crazy. She doesn't like not being in control, and Chief.
She doesn't like glitches. That's the last thing.
Glitch. Ding ding.
Yep.
That's a word for it. Oh yeah, they show like the back of his head, right? For like glitches, and so it's like, are they implying something with like Cortana in that? Like, she feels, maybe it's like, she thinks Cortana. I don't know. Who knows what they're gonna end up doing with that. But yeah, guys, that's episode 4 of the Halo series. So I want to say this one thing. This is my closing statement argument for a way that they could have made the show a little bit better.
The floor is yours.
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, in 2 or 3 days, watched all of Attack on Titan, except for what isn't released yet. Most people know what that is. It's an anime. It's great characters. I love the setup. They do a great job of setting up characters in the show and then immediately ripping them away from you as they're mercilessly killed by the enemies in the show, right? And I was thinking about it before we were recording today, because I've just been kind of hunting for new stuff to watch or whatever, and trying to figure out like why certain things work and other things don't, since we've been, and also trying to like not go insane by only watching all of this terrible crap.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Attack on Titan does so well is that you have this enemy that is set up from the beginning, like the very beginning, of being almost like an impossible odds for the people in the show. The characters in the show, you know that a majority of these characters are probably going to end up dead, and they're not going to go out in very nice ways. If they had just taken that specific part, right, and made that a core element of what's going on in Halo, the show would be at least 50% better.
Yeah.
There would at least be something there, right? And again, because Attack on Titan has a lot of characters. There are a lot of characters in that show. The interesting thing about it is that a character that's introduced in like episode 10, right, might be gone in episode 12. And they're usually taken out in some of the most creative but also like insane ways. And you have the Covenant, right, who are supposed to be this force to be reckoned with. Even in the games, they talk about that's like there are the odds of survival for the human race against the Covenant very small.
Right.
They're essentially this like alliance of all of these different aliens that are coming together to overthrow and take over the galaxy, as far as I'm aware. Wording might be a little bit off on some of that, but it doesn't matter. The idea is it's like you have the human race who's like fighting for their lives. But we get none of that in this. They're not even in this episode. We haven't seen them really dominate, right? They destroy the humans for like no reason, because the guns in Halo in the Silver Age of Halo make no sense. You know, it's like they're more powerful depending on who's holding them for whatever reason. They completely wipe out humans, which is fine or whatever, but then the Spartans handle them with like no problem. Like 20 of these elites, just it's fine, totally taken care of, no issue. No one was injured. There's not even like a moment where you really fear for the lives of the Spartans. And I think that is one of the major problems they're having with this, is that the villains in the show, specifically the Covenant, who should be center, like front and center for all of this, right? The looming threat of this massive force coming in, right? A word of Spartans being taken out by elites, all of this kind of stuff. And you could even show it, right? And show this is like TVMA, like you can get kind of violent with it, like show us like the brutality of what's going on. But they refuse to do it. It's like we've been talking about. It's people standing around in rooms, talking to each other, crying about their problems.
You know, and if they wanted to have a show with dialogue, like this is, they could have easily copied how the Fellowship of the Ring was done, right? That's primarily dialogue. Yeah. And it's done amazingly well. And this is just, it falls flat. And I think you're absolutely right. The Covenant being this, you know, this force to be reckoned with, this existential threat to the human race, doesn't come through in any of these episodes. In the first episode, you're kind of seeing that, and then, you know, get a glimpse of it, what was in the last episode. But again, they didn't nail those points well. They didn't build on episode 1 to really get that understanding, right?
I can't believe, man, the way that because I finished Attack on Titan, and I've started. I finished that, and I finished Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Japan writes significantly better characters in, I would say, at least 75%. Because I know there's like a lot of people out there that are massive anime fans. I don't think I generally like that stuff for the same reason a lot of other people do. Some people, I'm sure. I'd have to actually sit down with more people who are into it and be like, so what is it that like really, you know, anyway. But they have these very distinct characters that you recognize immediately, and every episode is about 24 minutes, and they are pushing all of this character into everyone in these shows way better than anything I've seen come out of the States and like mainstream Hollywood
in a while,
in a long time. Now that's not 100%, right? There are small projects here and there that I think are excellent. I think they have great characters in them. It's not everything. We just generalize because it's a little easier to do that, and it saves time on the kind of platform that we're doing.
Well, you're not wrong either, because the bar has fallen so low because these people don't care about the material they're handling. All it is corporate greed, and that's what it comes down to in ESG messaging, the agenda. It's not about, you know, something that they love. They take a known IP and rip it to shreds to put their message in it to get it out. And the fans pick up on it, and that's why, Hollywood's decision to fight online piracy was to make shows and movies unwatchable.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's gone up, man. With all of within the last couple of years, where people are there's I'm not paying for this stuff. It's I'm curious, but I'm not paying for it, and they probably don't even. The numbers again probably drop way off after the first couple of episodes because people are like, this isn't even worth. This isn't good. It's not worth my time.
And it's the same thing we talked about with The Witcher. I mean, The Witcher, don't get me wrong, season 1 numbers wise did well, but then when you look at season 2, there's a massive drop off. Even though Netflix added tens of millions more users than in the first season, you should have seen growth, right? And typically you don't see a decline, which lets me believe that in season 3 you're going to see a decline. And I think you could probably even see that on an episode by episode basis in season 2. And with this, I'm sure you go to season 1 episode 1 viewership, episode 2 will be lower, and then 3, and then this episode 2.
Absolutely. I forgot one last little thing I wanted to mention to you. Did you think that the Spartan and Keys were going to kiss at the end of that episode?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I was like, they're building that.
I was like, oh, this is going to be super awkward if they do this right now. Why? It's you
rushed it.
Yep. Can't even set that up. And this is the thing, man, because and then I'm done, and then I'm completely done with this. Vi and oh shoot, the blue-haired British girl from
Arcane.
I'm forgetting her name. Sorry, everybody. Her name's just slipping my mind right now. Anyway, they set that up so well because they allow that tension to be there through the whole season and then keep you waiting.
Yep.
To the point, and I think we talked about it back on the podcast when we reviewed it, which I still may put out at some point. I need to go back and look at that. I think we talked about it where it's if that never ends up happening, it's still better than 90% of the writing that gets put out there, because it's you build that up, and then if it's ripped away from Vi, it's oh wow, that was actually pretty great. Now she has this motivation to go against her own sister or whatever, because she already, Caitlin is her name.
Okay.
Anyway, so I compared to this, where I was expecting it to just be oh, now they're in a relationship.
Yeah.
And you're what is happening?
I'm that's pretty fast. She gains, takes that implant out, and her awareness comes a lot faster than Master Chief seems to.
Yeah, it's very that might be intentional too, if we're being honest. They might be spending a little more time with her character.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Well, Joseph, before we go, if people actually made it this far in the episode, do you want to tell them about our value for value system?
Yes. So we do a value for value system here, which means any value you're getting from these YouTube videos, reviews, or if you listen to our podcast, getting from it, you can donate to us in the form of time, talent, and treasure. So just go to our description, click on our direct.me link there. You'll see our PayPal donation link, our Bitcoin wallet address, and then you'll see all of our socials where you can follow us, engage with us, and whatever value you're getting from us, you can donate to us in that perceived form.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have all the information down below. You guys can click down there, check it out. And we'd love to hear from you guys on social media in particular, if you're liking what we're doing, to have some conversations with us. Love the comments sections as well. Once somebody said that they thought that Cortana looked like Pokimane in the streamer. I was dying, dude.
I died.
Probably my favorite comment.
That was too good, dude. And yeah, guys, we love it when you engage with us. We enjoy it. We don't, even if you don't agree with us, engage with us. We love to dialogue, go back and forth, and understand. And the best things that you can do for us is, like and subscribe to our channel, like our videos, comment on them on YouTube. And then if you feel led to, set up a $1 reoccurring payment every month through PayPal.
Hey, it'll keep ads from being on the channel if that's the case.
Yep.
So, all right, everybody. Well, we're going to leave it there. And we'll be back next week with episode 5, unfortunately.
I know. 5 more weeks.
We're making it. We're getting closer. Oh, my gosh. Thank you guys. And until then, take it easy.
Take it easy.